Some are but dark corners of the world. Some are places where shadows have lungs and air has ears. But what if one night you're at one of these places by yourself? But it will always be that one night, the last night, for one young woman. The events were planned upon were to be to simply drive home. Emily had just come from her new workplace and could hardly feel a desire to lie on her bed and sleep. But the storm of the century, out of nowhere, had other plans. The GPS signal was fading, and there was a lot of distance in front of us, with roads continuing to curve deeper into the wilderness. For every mile that was traveled, Emily had the impression someone was observing her. However, she was not the only woman on that road. Not tonight. Then just like that, without any reason to surface, the car's engine died. She turned the ignition and tried again with the key. Nothing. No service. Of course. It was time for her to seek assistance post her incarceration. A light, a house, anything. So she opened the door and walked out into the storm, hoping that there would be something or someone to meet on the street. That's when she saw it, a faint glitter that originated from a long way away. It was her only option. Further in, the wind moaned through the trees like people no one could see, each crackling twigs, and each breeze seemed like someone or something was following her. She knew what was going to happen to her. Her breaths raced and she could hear thrills of her heart, but she continued pulling closer to that faint light. Lastly, she traced the object's origin, a decrepit cabin, which appeared uninhabited. The door, which was nearly off its hinges, groaned open as though expecting her to come through the door. He turned inside, and the inside was suffocated, and the flat smell was entered into her lungs. Something was wrong. Very wrong. And then she heard it. A voice, so weak, almost inaudible, from which she could barely distinguish her name. Panic seized her. That was not just an old dilapidated cabin, I learned. This place, it was alive. Writing on the walls by which she was enclosed began to move, to live, to grow, and to multiply on the very sight of her terror. This was followed by another loud slam of the door it shut with force that shook the very frame of the cabin. She was no longer alone. From the shade of darkness, a phenomenon appeared. It was a person, the face contorted and shapeless, staring at her, reaching her, expecting. In that, the reader sees Emily get her revelation, one that shapes her to become the girl who would die in that house. Some roads led to nowhere, and sometimes nowhere, taking one straight to you. There was a time when one simply has to follow instructions, and in this case, the instructions were good enough. If you ever find yourself lost in the woods, remember not all those who are lost are alone.